Hey folks, it's us, podcasting wonderkins John Bishop and Lucas Southworth.
Although this is a podcast about cars, it is not age appropriate for the target demographic of these films, as we usually end up talking about the reproductive organs of Lightning McQueen.
Alright, now let's take a look under the hood.
Hello and welcome to the Chat, the only podcast brave enough to ask the question, hey, what's up with cars? I'm John Bishop.
And I'm John Bishop, but a car...
And that, of course, was John Bishop, and I'm Lucas Southworth. I'm sorry I got that wrong the first time. You can switch those if you want. You probably should. That's the way it goes. But what are we talking about today, John?
We're talking about how... And see, I think the joke would have worked better if you stayed John, but I'm John the car. Because what we're talking about... is the fact that in the Carsverse, there are just a bunch of cars who are real people, but they're cars. And I don't know, what's up with that?
All right, so are you saying that there are people who, exist... Are you talking about, just the general population of cars, where they're all people who are cars?
No, I'm talking about a select few, Johnny. By the way, he's John, I'm Lucas, just in case in case we have any new listeners or something, he's John Bishop, I'm Lucas Southworth. But there are a few very specific examples within the Carsverse where they'll just show Jay Limo on the Jay Limo show, and he's voiced by Jay Leno, and it's Jay Leno, but he's Jay Limo and a car. And why is that a thing? And there are lots of examples of that, but Jay Limo is one of my favorites.
So in our world, Jay Leno is a big fan of cars. He's got his own YouTube series specifically dedicated to cars. It might be at Netflix. I don't know. He's really into cars.
Sure.
And my theory is that maybe specifically Jay Limo is a car that exists in that world because Jay Leno in our world built it.
Okay. We're hopping right into theory crafting. I love it. Yeah, I could see that. So he built his own car body, and then how did that become in the Carsverse? Are we talking he transported it across universes? Are we talking this is a continuation of our universe and he built himself a car body to survive the carpocalypse, or what?
Oh, Lucas. Silly Lucas. It's obvious. It's the Illuminati.
Okay, sure. You're absolutely right. How could I be so foolish?
Once you reach a certain level of notoriety, a certain level of income, you become a member of the Illuminati. And if you ever disagree with the Illuminati, you get kicked out. So you'll see that very well-known, very established celebrities just all of a sudden have no money. Why is that? It's the Illuminati.
Okay.
And that is how cars are also people from our world.
No, you didn't. That didn't actually explain anything.
You see, the Illuminati, they control everything, including the government and also ice cream.
Sure.
Ice cream in summer, when ice cream sales go up, so does murder. Illuminati.
Okay. What is the bit you're doing right now? What is the energy you're bringing to our podcast after we took a week off?
Well, you see, some people exist in our world.
That's true.
And then the Illuminati think, hey, that person could be a car.
Okay, now this is the most direct thing you've said so far. Continue.
So the Illuminati makes those people into cars. Sometimes those people have to come back. So what do? They clone them, and they turn one of them into a car and leave the rest here. And that is, of course, the true facts about how doppelgangers came to be. Doppelgangers, you see, it's a mythos about how people used to have their children kidnapped by elves and replaced by either another elf or an enchanted piece of wood.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is, the Illuminati, of course, has time travel. So throughout history, the Illuminati have gained more power and more elusivity through the usage of doppelgangers. And what do you do when you have too many people and nowhere to put them?
Put him in a Carsverse, I guess.
Into the Carsverse.
Okay.
That's right, Lucas. So you may think, why are some of these characters just so kooky, so weird? And I say, it's because they live in a universe, a Cars world, that is based on our current time and place, but every single one of them is from a different time, a different place, and they have no idea what's going on because they're just a car clone.
Okay, you got there after doing some bits, I assume, to think of an actual theory. Uh, so, just to be clear, the in this theory, the Carsverse is a parallel universe, not a like forward in time kind of situation. Yes.
In this scientific fact,
Okay.
the
Sorry.
Carsverse is actually a pocket dimension that is
Okay.
being used as a prison by the Illuminati.
Sort of like a Phantom Zone situation. Phantom
Mm-hmm.
Zone, is that the correct terminology?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Why not? I was going to go with parallel universes as well. Maybe, I don't know, a little bit more directly than however you got there. But, you got there. So what am I going to do? Edit whatever you said earlier out? Maybe. Who can say? Uh, but anyway, yeah, I think that could be a big part of it because it's not just Jay Limo, it's one of our other favorite examples, Boat Reynolds, who shows up.
Lucas, there are more.
Oh, John, there are so many more.
How many more? Who do you have? List
Well,
them.
well, I'll do my best.
At
I'm not
least
gonna.
three.
Yeah, Boat Reynolds. I already said. He's one of our favorites because they say, "Boat, I loved you in the best little boathouse in Texas," which is a reference to the best little whorehouse in Texas, which is a weird thing to reference in Planes, Fire, and Rescue. Also, it's funny to think as of a boat as an actor. Another one of my favorites is Prince William of England, who is, Prince William, grandson of the Queen. The Queen also shows up, but I think they just refer to her as the Queen. So I guess she may not be Queen Elizabeth. She probably is, but it's not certain. But anyway, Prince William, it is for sure that's his name. And then there are just a bunch of the NASCAR, the people in the racing scene, like that's where they're all concentrated because, the people who made cars were like, let's do a bunch of cool little cameos and references to the different drivers and announcers and everything. So like Dale Earnhardt Jr., I don't even think they changed his name. They maybe just refer to him as Junior,
Yes, I only remember them ever saying Junior.
but it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. Uh,
Hmm.
and like all of the announcers are actual NASCAR announcers. Like I actually have these open. Daryl Cartrip is Daryl Waltrip. Oh, this is fun. It lists his hometown as Kentucky. Go Cats. Got Brent Mustangburger, who is Brent Musburger, and Bob Cutlass, who is Bob Costas.
Okay,
And it
okay.
goes on like that.
Now let's take a quick diversion.
I'd love to.
You did say hometown was Kentucky.
Yes. It's not a hometown. It's a home state.
Okay,
Importantly.
okay. I'm a little curious as to whether or not there is a town just named Kentucky.
I would like that. I bet there is somewhere, just, with how many towns there are
Mm-hmm.
in the world, but who can say? There's no way to know for sure. But they do list it as hometown, not home state. So you can maybe it may be. The world of cars driving.fandom.com has never once been wrong. So
All right. So
yes.
let's talk about it. Let's talk about what inspired this episode.
Okay. I would love to, John. You do it.
You sent me a link to a YouTube video from a series, I assume, where there are some children hosts who are on the RSN, the Racing Something Network,
Racing Sports Network.
Sports Network.
It's
Okay.
also a thing within the Carsverse, but they just co-opted it for their little series.
All right. So you sent me this video. I'm like, okay, these little kids talking about cars made me feel a little weird because like we talk about cars, but then I realized like, well, these kids aren't going to say like genitals, so that's something.
Yeah, they won't say the word whorehouse in their little show, probably.
True. Uh, and then I was like, okay, so it's kids, it's friendlier, it's going to be like a nice little viewing experience. And then these kids were just savage.
Yeah, they were pretty rude to these NASCAR drivers they had on.
There were three NASCAR drivers that they had on, and they were like, "Oh, hey, how are you? Nice thing. Tell us about your car's experience becoming cars. Get out of here." Was basically the feeling that I got.
Yeah,
They like to pull the rug out from underneath every single one of them.
yeah, which I guess I mean this was fully made for kids. I'm not going to like mince around that. Like this was a promotional thing they did to like promote a few new die casts they made of these NASCAR drivers as cars. If you're curious, I don't know how many of you actually follow racing. I'm going to say maybe zero of you, but they were Austin Dillon, William Byron, and Chase Elliott. But yeah, they just, every time the kids wanted to be finished with the interview, they would just interrupt the racer mid sentence and say, okay, we're done, or that's all we got time for. And again, it was very clearly like a joke, but it was weird.
All right, so that was weird.
Yeah.
But then we get to the other thing. The like main topic was that these racers had diecast models,
Hmm.
and the whole point was, oh, you've been turned into a car. Haha, let's talk about that. And then they show the car, and I gotta say, Lucas,
Uh huh.
every single time they described those diecast models, they said, "Oh, it looks just like you." It looked nothing like any of them.
And to an extent, I get it. I don't know how it can't be easy to make a car look like a man. And it was their job to sell it. And they did their best, but these cars did not look like these people.
See, the second car, I was like, okay, that looks just like the first car. They all have the same face, which is
Yeah.
something. I think they're all the basic same model. But the second one, I thought, oh, that car has very bright blue eyes. And the person I just looked at, I can't tell if they have blue eyes, but I thought it was brown. I think I looked it up and he did have blue eyes. Then I looked up the next person. By looked up, I mean I didn't have to look up. This guy has very brown eyes. And the diecast model, of course, did have blue eyes.
Oops.
So I'm thinking that they just used the same diecast and just repainted it, and that was it. So these three racers are all the same person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not great. But the sort of crux of the episode and why we actually looked at this is, and I want to preface this by, I don't know, I guess breaking character for a second of the like Lucas who overanalyzes everything. There's no way that Pixar was like, this will be considered canon. This will add to our rich canon of the Carsverse. And quite frankly, they shouldn't like be expected to have this be canon. But they put it out there, and I'm back in character now, and we're gonna consider it canon. So sorry, it's official. It's was made by the official Cars YouTube channel. So, but anyway, the reason why we want to talk about this is the way they framed these interviews was each of them were asked like what was it like to be turned into a car, not in the sense of like what an honor to be honored by the Cars brand. No, like they were like what was did it hurt when you were physically transmogrified into a car? And then the NASCAR driver said, a bit, but it was worth it.
Yeah, the transformation, I can only assume, was very much like Turbo Teen,
Yeah.
except instead of it being a willing thing or anything brought on by heat, their body just is forcibly turned into a car. But let's talk about something they talked about during this. They had tires put on.
Yeah, they did what we've often described. We've often wondered if tires are shoes, and one of the drivers made that exact comparison. So I don't know.
Hmm. It's better
Confirmed.
to have four tires than two tires, which I think a lot of motorcyclists will disagree.
A lot of car drivers will probably agree, though.
Yep. Yep. All right. So there's all that. That's all a lot. But one thing I want to mention, the third man, the third racer,
Chase Elliott.
was this he was transformed, right? Was this his only time being transformed?
John, I'm so glad you brought it up. Because no, it looks like he was in one of the Cars movies as a car. he like did one of those little guest cameos that I talked about, how they like to do little cameos from real race car drivers. But okay, and he talked as if he was physically transformed for also his movie appearance. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this breaking character, this is a promotional thing they are going to show children. So I get it. But back in character, no. The timeline you have laid out is Chase Elliott was a human. He was transmogrified into Chase, I think, Racelot, which is not even a good name pun, for his movie appearance. Then he was transformed back into a human, then transformed back into a different car. It is not the same design as his movie appearance for this diecast, and then transformed back into a human for this interview he's doing with what looks like a 6-year-old,
Okay.
maybe 8,
Okay.
2
Let's
8-year-olds.
talk about this.
I'd love to, John.
So those 3 cast models,
Yeah.
I think that they're the same model. I think they're the same model, which makes this a lot worse because that means that not only is Chase Elliott 2 different doppelgangers in that universe,
Hmm.
but he's also one of 3 of the same doppelganger.
Yeah. It's not great. And like, I'm just trying to get into the fiction they've put out here. So, what they've done is they've made little toys of these men as cars. At what point of the process do you need to physically transmogrify them into the car to make the toy of them? Just make the toy. Is a small piece of their soul inhabiting every single Chase race lot diecast that is going to be sold?
All right, Lucas, let's talk about it.
I would love to.
I think what Chase Elliott is doing
Uh huh.
is he is Voldemort like securing his soul by having pieces of his soul stored in different bodies.
They're Horcruxes. Okay.
Yep, he is a bunch of Horcruxes. All right, so Chase Racelot, aka Chase Elliott. Yep, that's just Racelot.
Why not Race Elliot?
Because his name's not Chase. That's his nickname. What are you talking about? His name's
It's what he
Clyde.
goes by. Sorry.
Yeah, but you can't give a nickname to a nickname.
You
That's too
can.
much.
Legally, you can. It's in the
Legally you
Constitution.
can, and you're also required to in this situation.
Freedom of speech, John. Look it up.
All right.
So yeah, he's a bunch of tiny cars, I guess.
He's a bunch of tiny cars. But let's get into it. All right, we talked about how they're doppelgangers. But this man is one of 3 triplets that are all not related and then also 2 different people.
Well, I guess the triplets thing might make some amount of sense. Let's get into how do we think they got transmogrified. I
That's easy.
Okay.
Illuminati.
No. I think the way they describe it, and the only reason I think it would be necessary to transmogrify them to base the toy off of them, because, like, if they were just, you know, made the squishy bit and built a car shell around, then they would have known what the car looks like, and they don't need to make him into a car to make the toy. They just make the toy because they know what he would look like. I think they have some sort of beam, some sort of transmogrification beam, not unlike what I think causes the initial transformation in Turbo Teen. I haven't seen it. We've looked so hard, we can't find the series.
I do
But
believe I've seen the first episode, though.
yeah, there are like 2 episodes we can find, but there are 13 total, and we're not going to half do a job, okay? Uh, but so I imagine there's just a beam that they just shoot them with, and then they look at them and they're like, oh, I guess that's what you look like as a car. And maybe just the settings weren't changed enough in between the 3 guys. And they just did
Now,
them one after another.
now, Lucas,
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Tell me the thing, John.
I've been listening to a podcast called No Sleep. And in this podcast, it's a bunch of horror stories.
Sure.
And if there's anything I've learned from horror stories, it's that if you want to transform a person, you could put a parasite in them, or you can give them mysterious drugs. And I think that's the option we have to go with, that these people were fed mysterious drugs that gradually, painfully turned them into cars.
Okay.
So I think that this was a fairly long experience. I think it took like a whole month for these people to become a car, which explains why it was painful. And then
Yeah.
it took a whole month to go back.
Again, it's so important. The first guy I've closed out of the video, I could not be bothered to remember his name.
Austin Dillon.
Thank you, John. Did when they asked if it hurt. At first, he was like, "Did what hurt?" And then they're like, "Being transformed into a car, you idiot." Uh, and then he was like, "Oh, I mean, yeah." So yeah, whatever the process was, it did hurt, and I do like that because it keeps this almost random aspect of it that explains again why they would even need to turn them into cars to make the toys of them as cars.
Okay. Lucas, are you ready for a not very fun fact of the day?
Go for it.
You and I are both older than two of the three people that were featured in that video.
I would argue that we're older than 4 of the 5 people featured in that video because there were also 2 children interviewing them. But I still don't like the spirit of the fact, John.
I don't think that they're featured if they're the hosts.
I disagree, but semantically in ways that don't matter.
Okay.
So,
Well, yeah. Of the 3 race car drivers, we
sure.
are older than 2 of them.
Hmm.
One of them by 2 years.
Never liked that kind of fact.
Yep.
We both went to a big basketball school that we grew up knowing about just because of the area we grew up in. I'll tell you, it's University of Kentucky. And just the realization, having grown up watching University of Kentucky basketball, I don't think I realized how young they were until I was older than them, going to the same college as them, until I was 19 or 20. And I was like, oh, that was me 2 years ago, but incredibly more athletic. Well, okay,
And
cool.
sometimes you might say, oh, that was me 2 years ago, but also 2 feet taller.
Yeah.
And I had one class with a basketball player. And like you might ask, okay, which student is in this class the basketball player?
No, you know.
You'll know. You'll know. Because either someone will tell you, or they will be 2 feet taller than you.
Yeah, and they've got it. They all have the same matching backpacks, which I always thought was fun.
Yeah.
But
Now, just gonna throw this one a little bit out there. There was also the year that I realized that there was a student who is maybe a year or two younger than me, who was in fact also 2 inches shorter than me, and was very good at basketball.
Tyler
And I was
Eulis.
just, man, that decimated me right there.
Yeah, the single best. How tall is Tyler Eulis, Liz? What, like 5'9"? He's 5'9".
Oh dang, he's only 1 inch shorter than me then.
Yeah, he certainly, I don't think, made it in the NBA, but he was an incredible college player, and that was weird because he was 5'9". Anyway,
Oh boy. So yeah, let's talk about cars.
I would love to, John. I'm so glad you asked. So we've got maybe some terrible pills. I guess really heavy in iron. Am I right? It's not.
Actually,
It's
no,
different
it's going to be
metals.
aluminum.
But like iron's a thing we do. Whatever. Or some sort of beam or something like that. Transformed these poor men into cars just to sell toys. I do really enjoy the scene when the transmogrification, which I'm going to keep calling it because it's fun to say, has completed, and they go in, and I kind of imagine it like a stereotypical like college sculpting class or a college like figure drawing class where there's just a room full of designers like, oh, okay, and they just sort of sketch them or sculpt them out to design the toy, and they probably feel very uncomfortable because they're car people.
All right, Lucas, I
Yeah.
do not want to burst your bubble, but photogrammetry, 3D photogrammetry, has come such a long way that I don't think there's a chance that this major company that can afford terrifying drugs to turn people into cars doesn't just have like a camera setup that will scan them.
Yeah, that's fair. I was gonna say, like, oh no, I mean Pixar, it's art, but we have established that they have the technology to transmogrify these poor men into cars. So why wouldn't they have the existing real technology to just do a body scan?
And if you're wondering, like, oh, that's got to be extremely expensive, well, it's a diecast model that's very like small version of the person, so it doesn't need to be all that accurate. And if you go with that logic, you can get a 3D scanner, and by 3D scanner I mean a thing that can 3D scan for like $15. It's called the Xbox Connect,
Mm,
and you
yeah.
can in fact use it to 3D scan yourself and someone else.
And I bet they've got motion capture stuff at Pixar,
Oh, absolutely.
like those little ping pong balls.
Mm-hmm.
They could at least borrow them from Marvel. If they don't, you just stick them all over them. Anyway,
Time for interesting tidbit.
sure.
Austin Dillon, also 5'9".
Hey,
He could be a basketball player
couldn't any of us? No, some of
if he
us
were
aren't
if he
gifted.
were 12 years younger.
Uh,
He's 30, so like I guess there are basketball players that age, but you
there
know,
fully are,
I'm choosing to be bitter.
but there probably aren't too many 5'9", 30-year-old professional basketball players. I'll give you that. Anyway, John, I'm going to talk about cars.
Talk about cars.
Okay, thank you. So, we have this bit where these men say they were transformed into cars. One of them for the movies, one of them, the other two for these little toys. So, are we assuming Jay Leno got transmogrified for his appearance in Cars?
All right, let's think about this. Jay Leno,
Yes.
was he in good standing when he retired?
No, people got mad at him because of stuff with Conan.
Well, the thing is, they got mad at him over stuff with Conan because he refused to retire, kind of.
Yeah.
So once he retired, I think he was in better standing after
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
he's had a good amount of success just being retired and talking about his favorite thing, which is cars, and he's also a very wealthy man still.
Yeah.
So I have to assume he was at least in okay standing, which means they don't need to banish him to the cars realm,
Yes.
which has me thinking that he may have volunteered because
Okay.
what does the man love?
Cars.
Loves cars. So he finds out about the weird shadow realm of the cars world,
Yes.
and he finds himself thinking, I love cars. I could car. So he cars, and he becomes a car for at least a month or two because you gotta. That's it.
Yeah, I could see that, and that would make sense for the all of the NASCAR people
Mm-hmm.
because there is a huge like I would say, and it makes sense because the movies focus on the racing scene that we see so many racers who are, but like if there is truly a larger number in the racing community of these doppelgangers, that would make sense if you're saying I don't know, some people volunteer to be turned into car people.
Mm-hmm. And because a lot of the people are from this time, because of just how uh, numbers work, the more people exist at one point in time, the more people you're going to have to take from that time if you're running an empire like this. So a lot of people are going to be from this time. So having Jay Limo just show up, of course he's going to only have to be there for a month to be very famous again because people are going to already recognize who he is.
Yeah. And maybe they just sort of, if there were architects of this world, I mean, the manufacturer, I assume the Illuminati in this little thing you're doing are the manufacturer.
You see, that's the secret. The manufacturer work for the Illuminati.
So that's basically the same thing when it comes down to it, as them just being the Illuminati.
You know how sometimes
Yeah.
people go to Hollywood and they want to become rich and famous, but they don't ever seem to like make it. But you also never really hear from them again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing to believe in a world that's much more positive and assume that those people are now working in the car's shadow realm as the manufacturer, because otherwise you have to face a grim reality that I don't want to think about.
Sure, man. Fair enough. But yeah, if they could also have just engineered it so Jay Limo was famous, like they just slid him into this slot and gave him this power, and then the people are like, "Yeah, he's what's on." Sure. One thing I wanted to get into, and I'm gonna preface this by saying this is potentially getting into WandaVision spoilers.
I haven't seen the latest episode.
Okay, it's based on a fan theory.
Okay.
So it could, and fan theory and stuff that has happened in the comics. So if you're not interested in hearing these things that I don't know could happen in WandaVision, I don't know, don't listen to this part. But just like mute it and keep it running. We need that playtime, people.
True, and also, if you're really against that, why are you listening to this episode if you've heard either of the last two episodes?
Where we
We have
talk
been talking about WandaVision a
incessantly
lot.
about WandaVision.
It's so good.
It's incredible. I recommend you watch the next episode whenever you can, John. It's a very good one. But in the comics, Scarlet Witch, as well as a few other just people, are what are called nexuses. And again, I only know this because it's a WandaVision fan theory, and I've been reading a lot of those. And what that means is that they are basically the same person across every like universe in the multiverse.
Famously, Merlin is also one.
Yes. So I'm wondering if that maybe just Burt Reynolds is a nexus, you know? Maybe Jay Leno and Burt Reynolds and just a inordinate amount of people in the racing scene are multiversal constants almost.
All right. However,
Yeah.
if that is the case, then would he not just be a human being in the Cars world, or a car in this world?
Now, John, I'm going to be honest.
Or I mean a boat, because he is Boat Reynolds.
Yes. I don't really know much more about nexuses past that, but maybe there's some sort of like semi nexus where like Burt Reynolds is so it's so important to the universal structure that they have to have something adjacent to Burt Reynolds at least.
Okay, so like DC's Paragons.
Sure.
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
so well, here's the problem
Yes.
with that. It's that well, as anyone listening to this and everyone listening to this, I'm assuming everyone in the world knows, Scarlet Witch is not just a mutant. She
Hmm.
is also famously a witch. She has magic as well as reality altering powers based on probability. So a lot of her magic comes from the fact that she's a mutant who is also a nexus. It's this very strange thing where all of those three things combined to allow her to manipulate reality by changing probability, by making sure that this is the reality in which the outcome is desirable.
Hmm.
So, uh, my question to you is: are you saying that Jay Leno and Boat Reynolds are, in fact, also witches or wizards?
I wasn't saying that, but I guess now you backed me into a corner where I am in fact saying that.
Okay,
Because,
that does solve my earlier problem.
you know, like, what do I know about Burt Reynolds' personal life?
All right, so the reason that solves the problem is, of course, if you follow the storyline of Merlin as a Nexus, he changes his form very intentionally throughout time and space so that he can match the environment and whatever people will perceive him as. So, of course, becoming a car person would be easy for Mr. Boat Reynolds.
Yeah. Like, he just needs to, even though he's this universal constant, like, I don't know, he doesn't want to be social outcast, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the same with Daryl Daryl Cartrip and Brent Mustang Burger and Bob Cutlass.
Okay, but here's the problem with that.
Yeah.
Is that they had to be transformed. They had to be turned into it. So I
No,
can't assume that they're Nexuses.
yeah, I'm classifying our three NASCAR drivers as something different. Those were the
Okay.
three like announcers
All right.
who I just said.
All right. So the announcers are, of course, since they are announcers, they are heralds, and any herald is going
Sure.
to be likely to be a Nexus.
As you all
So,
know.
of course. So since heralds are, of course, Nexuses, they are the ones who get to choose who goes across.
Okay.
I will say that one person who can act as a Nexus is, of course, the Sorcerer Supreme Doctor Strange,
Yes.
who, of course, is going to interact with Scarlet Witch. So there's going to be something like that, but that would mean that he could be the person who is able to transfer people through realities and transform those race car drivers. But here's the thing, Lucas.
Tell me the thing, Johnny.
Here's the thing, Lucas.
Oh, yeah. I already said what I say when you say that, so.
Okay. So you know how I was talking about the Illuminati?
Yes, I do know that.
Marvel has its own Illuminati.
Good. I don't know who they are, but I'm excited to learn about them, bud.
Well, they're the people who decide major things throughout the universe, and they're the people who like to interact with things. in the Illuminati and the Avengers, I know that there are members such as Namor, Iron Man at some points, Doctor Strange, it seems, Black Bolt, Mr. Fantastic, Charles Xavier. So, yeah, if in fact Doctor Strange is in the Illuminati, then that means that my whole episode theory is one thing where the Illuminati controls who goes in and out. They can put people in there in prison, and there are also nexuses that also exist. So all of these theories go hand in hand and work. They mesh together very perfectly because, of course, Doctor Strange, aka Bendy Face Cumberbund,
There you go.
uh, he is, of course, Doctor Strange in our world, and he is a nexus, and he is the one sending people into the car's shadow realm.
Yeah, why not? I do think it's fun because I looked it up. I thought you were saying there is something like akin to the Illuminati. No, it's just the Illuminati. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Uh,
It's straight up Marvel's Illuminati.
yeah,
And
it's called the Illuminati.
whenever people are in the Illuminati, even if they're good guys, they just happen to act much worse for some reason.
Cool. Why not? Yeah, I could
Ugh.
dig that. I am very interested, and we've sort of touched on this a little bit, just in the fact that I've mentioned it happened.
Mhm.
But I am going to get into the question from Liz, which was sent to me live during the recording of this episode. And it is I have a question. If they were changed to cars for the movie, were they changed back to human since they were human in the interview? Referring to our three NASCAR drivers in our children's YouTube video that we've based an episode of our podcast about.
Mhm. Uh, Again, pointing out two people who are doing what we're doing, but in a much more professional setting and in a
Or
much
getting
more
paid to do it.
advertised and successful style of way. And they're just, I don't know, nearly 1/5 of our age.
Cool. But yeah, I do want to talk about these three who have been transformed into cars and then transformed back, because this isn't the same as our Nexus theory, where there's just a version of them that exists in multiple universes. They were made into cars and then pulled back into being human.
Now, here's one way to think about it.
Yeah.
If we go weird science pill that transforms you, it could be that they were given the pill until they transformed, they performed their duties as the car, and then they just didn't take the pill anymore and their body reverted back to normal.
Or they were given some sort of anti pill.
Hmm. Well, my theory is that they don't necessarily need to be transformed back. It's they just revert to their natural state of being, which I have to assume is also a very, very painful process.
I almost imagine it as a more painful process.
Hmm. See, going from being a normal person to something much larger just requires like some growing pains and, getting bigger and turning metallic and getting wheels. But to be a very large vehicle and to become something much smaller, I've seen that happen. I'm pretty sure I've even seen the results in Cars 2.
Yeah.
And it's I have to say it looks excruciating.
Yeah, John is referring to when cars get crushed into cubes. And one thing I gotta say about I assume that being turned into a car, we have said that the cars can feel pain, but like in a different way than us. Because like how do pain receptors work in metal? They
Hmm.
wouldn't work as well. So I imagine the process from becoming human to car is you lose a lot of pain receptors, but the process of becoming car to human is you gain a lot of pain receptors, like pain receptors grow back.
Hmm.
And I don't know, just that alone sounds a lot more painful to me.
I mean, going on what you're saying, it could be that they're just gaining like this hardened shell around those pain receptors that they're
Yeah,
going to be then losing. So either way, it's going to be a lot more painful getting them back. And if you think about it, if you go without pain for a whole month because you've been a car for that month, and then you start feeling the same amount of pain as a normal human just day to day,
yeah.
that's going to be excruciating just because you've gotten used to not feeling pain.
Yeah, and either way, pill or beam, if we're talking about them just reverting without any sort of aid, I imagine if they gave them a pill or shot them with some sort of ray, part of that would be helping them through the transition. Like
Mm-hmm.
something in the pill would be a painkiller. But if they're just going back cold turkey, nothing helping them, I don't know. All in all, sounds very, very painful.
All right. So, if we're assuming that it's not in fact pill,
Mhm.
then we could assume that if we're going the Disney owns Marvel route, that they are in fact going through Hulk transformations,
Okay,
which leads me to believe that the Hulk, the secret is that he's always angry, right?
sure, yes.
What what emotion do you have to feel to become a car?
I mean, we've mentioned Turbo Teen a lot this episode, so I'm just going to lean on that.
That's heat,
Yeah, I'm not
which is
saying.
Red Hulk.
Is that true?
His gamma radiation is weird. He's red because his powers are more based on heat than strength.
Huh,
The more angry he gets, the more hot he gets, and he can just like burst into flame.
weird. But yeah, I'm going to lean on Turbo Teen and say it's not an emotion. It's much like Turbo Teen. It's whenever they get too warm, I guess, they turn into cars. Which, if you don't know, also applies to like if he eats a spicy pepper, which is very funny to me.
Okay, I do have a counter proposal.
Okay, hit me.
What is the first thing that is ever said in the Cars films?
I am speed.
I am speed. What is a car but a go fast machine?
If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. You've summed it up real well.
So a car is of course a go fast machine.
Yes.
And these race car drivers, they like to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
And Disney owns something that makes people go real fast.
Roller coasters.
Roller coasters.
Okay.
So what my proposal is that you know how there are training simulations for cars?
Yeah.
And you know how there's one the, in Cars World?
Yeah, there's also one in Epcot in Disney World called Test Track.
What if these roller coasters are designed to suss out people that have the inherent car gene?
Okay, we're going back to mutants. I love it.
They make you go so fast that you turn into a car.
And maybe I
You
like to
have to feel speed, Lucas.
yes. But I like to think that like the transformation isn't like complete. Otherwise, we would hear stories of, roller coaster cars at Disney exploding all the time because there was suddenly a car in them.
I mean, what do you think those like hidden compartments are for?
It's fair.
There are areas where you go into like tunnels where it's really dark and you might have your picture taken, or you might have surveillance footage
Yes.
seeing if you're turning into a car so they can change the track direction to hide your car transformation.
See, I was going to go into the ride photo. I think that the ride photo is much more sophisticated than we've given credit, and is again the speed from these roller coasters. While a lot of them are genuinely very fast, isn't enough for the full transformation. But maybe they're very subtle, like you become a little shiny, you start becoming whatever paint job you have, your hands get rubbery or something. I
Your
don't.
head starts to shrink into your torso and then elongate forward.
Your eyes get just a little closer together.
Your
Stuff like
eyes
that.
suddenly become very, very huge with no skin in between.
Yes, much like a Sonic the Hedgehog situation.
What I think we're both trying to get here is if you see a blurry picture on a roller coaster, you can justify it. Oh, it's I was moving too much. But nah, you're becoming a car.
Yeah, and Disney has some very sophisticated like auto technology, or maybe just like operators looking at all of the ride photos and saying, "Ah, we got one." And I don't know, Disney's got enough money for hit squads to just go and to grab and bag you, you know?
You say hit squads, I say people who will direct you towards the training rides. They gather all the people who are starting to transform during the roller coasters and they put them on a special training ride that will actually train them to control their car transformation. Little known fact, Lucas.
Uh huh.
Vin Diesel is in fact one of these wear cars.
Okay.
The reason he is so well known for his Fast and Furious movies is because he is both the man, the myth, the legend, and also the car.
Okay, that must save him some money, on
Mm-hmm.
having to buy these expensive cars. You just say, "Okay, Vin, get fast," I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Sure, I am speed," and then he is. I thought you were going to go Iron Giant with that, since he voices the Iron Giant, and that's a big metal boy.
See, that's how they found it out originally.
Okay, it's a documentary.
They were doing the Iron Giant, and they realized, man, there's a quality to this man's voice that's just very mechanical. We got to figure this out.
You'd think that they added like some intense like sound filtering to his voice performance, but no, he just accessed something deep inside. And little known fact, the second half of the movie is actually live action, but they just put some like intense filters on it,
Mm-hmm.
visual filters to make it match the first half.
Of course, there was green screen because you needed to have the animated character still in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But as you're saying, there's just a lot of filters that aren't actually there. You
Hmm.
think they're there, but the reason he got the role to begin with is because he was running late to the audition, so he had to speed to get there, and he went so fast that when he started doing his vocal warm ups, his recordings, and his audition, he actually had that mechanical tone to him.
Yeah, and he saw one of the producers was exercising his right to open carry, and he saw that, and his eyes turned red, and all of his special special anti-gun guns came out, and he destroyed 3 city blocks, but he got the part. So
Uh, oh boy.
this is my favorite movie of all time. I'm enjoying this bit, but also it hurts me a little bit to do it.
It's so good. Okay, so Vin Diesel is in fact a car person,
Yes, and and just the Iron Giant.
and just the Iron Giant.
Somehow he's both. Don't worry about it.
Now, are there people who are in fact fans of Guillermo del Toro's work who started working with him only to discover that they were going to become the giant fighting robots in Pacific Rim?
You see, we've been asked. One of our listeners, Rob, tweeted at us once to ask us to do an Iron Giant origin story. And when I thought about it, I was like, we could just tie it right into Pacific Rim, say that the Iron Giant is a prequel to Pacific Rim, and we've already tied Pacific Rim into it. And yeah, that's fully what I'm saying. Rob, you tweeted that at us a long time ago. There is your 1 minute origin story for the Iron Giant.
All right, let's talk about this though.
Yeah.
In the Iron Giant, spoiler alert, he comes apart at the end,
Uh,
and his pieces are everywhere.
yeah.
What if those pieces were trying to find their way back to become the whole giant again, but instead got lodged into cars and turned those cars into people?
Yeah, we don't see the giant reforming at the end. And of course, you're going to take the happy ending away from me by doing this. But yeah, it works. I prefer mine where just the US government, who is like the villain of the Iron Giant, just saw him and we're like, we got to make us one of those.
I
And
love how you said of the Iron Giant after that.
it's just the villain. I get it. But and then some monsters happened and they're like, oh, good thing we were working on these things. Jeez. Just shared the designs with the world to fight off the kaiju who are in Pacific Rim. And that's how the
Mhm.
all Jaegers can trace their lineage back to the Iron Giant. And the Iron Giant, let me tell you, would just hate that. He's not a gun. Oh god. I hate this. But yeah, it works, I guess. He's
Oh boy,
Superman.
he's Superman. Oh boy. There were a few key things in my childhood that made me love Superman, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
You hear all the time that he's a symbol of hope and he's inspiration, and then you see that movie and you're like, oh, I get it now.
The robot wants to be better and he identifies with Superman. Oh, I can't do this or I will actively start crying. Uh
Okay, so
yeah.
let's talk about cars and how people become cars.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's how we got on this, huh? Vin Diesel.
Hmm.
Anyway, Vin Diesel is a Nexus. Sure, why not?
Vin Diesel is yet another Nexus.
Groot, he's Vin Diesel. and
He's Vin Diesel.
he's a very similar character to the Iron Giant if you think about it. I don't want to explain why.
Yep, they're both tall.
That's the one. It's the only one. That's, we've gone more off the rails, but I've had a lot of fun with this one.
All right.
The cars are people sometimes.
So, do we think that in a future installment of Cars, there will ever be a person?
I mean, no. I want that to happen? Yes. Because then, I don't know, man. We would have content for the rest of our God-given lives, you know?
All right, but hear me out.
Yeah.
There's a movie
Yes.
in which spatial dimensional travel is a thing, and it's a Pixar movie. That is, of course, Monsters University.
And Monster Inc. But yes, go ahead.
So, so we know that they can already travel to a realm not their own, where there
Mhm.
are a different type of creature. So, what if there's a door where a person goes through it and all of a sudden they're in Cars World?
Yeah,
Here's the hitch, it would have to be a garage door.
that's a good detail. I'm glad you threw that in. That did always seem like an easier way to do unified Pixar theory to me than whatever convoluted mess unified Pixar theory is. It's just like, I don't know. We already got a multiverse with the Monsters Inc. universe and the human universe. Why not just, yeah, they're all universes. They're different doors. Who cares? But anyway, uh, yeah, I think that'd be fun. Why not? I like the garage door angle. It's a fun thing.
All right, all right.
And we've got, and in a weird way, Mike and Sully are nexuses,
They do exist as the same person in two different realms. The only problem is
not
those
ours.
realms are ours and Cars.
Yeah, if the assumption is, and it is, that Monsters Inc. they open doors into our universe, then yeah, I guess because there is a Mike and Sully car, not just who appear in the movie Monster Trucks Inc. on the drive-in, but they make a brief cameo in one of Mater's Tall Tales as just existing cars. And maybe those people were cosplaying. Who knows?
Maybe. But
But
I was going with the idea that in our world, they are characters in a kids' film called Monsters Inc. And in the Cars world, they are characters in a kids' film named Monster Trucks Inc.
yes.
So in both of our realms, they are the same person. It's just in our world, they're humanoid monsters, whereas in theirs, they're carified monsters.
And I guess that would more importantly imply that the writers of Monsters Inc. and Monster Trucks Inc. are Nexuses themselves.
Mm-hmm. Which is, of course, how Pixar has turned every employee at Pixar into a Nexus.
And that's actually a thing. I meant to bring this up. So many of the cars are named after Pixar employees, and that's just like a fun thing they've done.
Mm-hmm.
But like one of our favorites, Steve Hercel, is like named after a Pixar employee who works on Cars. Probably just, Steve Hercel, but like not pronounced with the emphasis on hearse. I can't remember. Maybe Herschel. I don't have it in front of me.
Herschel or Purcell?
Yeah, and John Lasseter does in fact appear as Jeff Gorvet's crew chief. Weird.
So he can't be a Nexus in that sense because he's not the same person.
Yeah, but he also appeared at the Cars Land grand opening ceremony. Okay, I'm already doing it. This is the wiki quote of the day, but like in the middle of it. In media res, that's a theater term of the day.
Give me that verisimilitude of the day.
Yeah, man, you got it. So we
That's
are
not what that is.
no, I know, bud. We are on worldofcarsdriving.fandom.com/wiki/John Lasseter. And right here, there's most of it is about his bio as Jeff Gorvetts, who is Jeff Gordon, another Nexus crew chief. But if you go down to Carsland Grand Opening Ceremony, it reads John Lasseter made an appearance at the grand opening ceremony of Carsland. While John Lasseter was talking, John Lasseter appeared on the screen telling him about an idea for a new Cars tune, which would be about a green truck with wooden doors, which is him. However, John Lasseter tells him that he's busy and that he can call his office later on. So that to me is a more direct, like, I guess, because if you also go up to occupation, it gives a little slash. It's Jeff Gorvet's crew chief slash Pixar filmmaker and chief creative officer.
All right. So he just has another job.
He's just got a
and
side gig.
He is, in fact, a Nexus who had a conversation with himself in front of us.
Yeah,
That's something.
that's a lot.
Terrifying? Maybe. If he were to talk to himself and then, like, just, like, nudge a little closer and then, like, bump fists or something with the tire, would that cause a singularity?
Well, one, yes. Two, in the quotes section, there is fully just the transcript of their conversation, and I can't not read that on our podcast, so I'm gonna do that. John Lasseter. Psst, John, up here. Oh boy. Yeah, hi. Oh boy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to John Lasseter, my alter ego from Cars 2. How's it going? Hey, I got a great idea for a new Cars tune. It's about a pickup truck with wood paneling. Huh? Oh wow, that sounds really great, John. I'm gonna have to think about it a little bit. Oh, come on, pickup trucks with wooden paneling are the next big thing, dude. Okay, we'll definitely get together. I'm a little busy right now opening Carsland. Call my office. Okay, I'll call your office. I'll get it on your schedule. You know, it's gonna be like next year sometime. You're gonna love it when you hear it. Enjoy the rest of the ceremony, dude. Bye, everyone. Drives away. John Lasseter. See you later, John Lasseter from Cars 2. So, I don't know. It seems like he's pretty awkward and annoyed with his alter ego. And we have lost John, which is a shame because I did just read that long thing. So, I don't know. Hopefully we get John back. Oh, he's back. There we go.
Boy, howdy. Okay, so I touched a thing with my foot and everything turned off, and then I turned it back on.
Nice, bud.
So yeah, don't touch things with your foot.
That's a good thing. How much of that extensive conversation I was reading did you hear?
I heard you say that they had it, and that was it.
Okay. Well,
All right, there's a full transcript of the conversation, and it goes a little something like what you said.
yeah, I'm just going to send it to you so you can just skim it real quick. It's in the chat if you see it. The long and short of it is, as you read it, human John Lasseter seems pretty annoyed and just sort of standoffish to his alter ego John Lasseter.
All right, but hear me out. One of
Yeah.
them is a human man, and
Yeah.
the other one is a cartoonish version of that human man. And essentially, what's that going to be? That's going to be a caricature of yourself. And who are you going to dislike more than a caricature of yourself?
No, I fully get it. Like, that is a good way to put it, Johnny. But I don't know. I just think it's very funny that how this went is John Lasseter is just like, ah, oh, brother, this guy. Give me a second. I can't believe this is happening while I'm here opening Cars Land and John Lasseter from Cars 2 has shown up.
I can't believe it's not Butter. And in fact, it is me as a truck talking about his wood paneling.
Pitching me a Cars tune about himself. Just good stuff. I don't really know what the implications of the fact that John Lasseter and John Lasseter have interacted in public.
Now, Lucas, there's some troubling. I don't know how to phrase this. I'm bothered by this website that you have sent me a link to because I want you to look at the picture of John Lasseter.
Yes.
Now scroll down and look at the picture of John Lasseter.
Oh yeah, they look different.
See, like a paint job is one thing.
The wood paneling.
But the wood paneling exists on only one of them, and one of them seems to be a just a different model of truck.
Yeah, the coloring's also a little different. He has what looks like a little brim of a hat almost in his wood paneling version.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, they're both confirmed as John Lasseter. I don't know what to tell you, but
I think John Lasseter is pulling a Lord Voldemort.
yeah, it's like Chase Race-A-Lot or whatever his name was. How there are two different versions of him, canon in the Carsverse. I think
Mm-hmm.
John Lasseter is just another, I don't know, doppelganger of a doppelganger.
Which has me thinking way too much about the idea of, okay, so Illuminati, Marvel Illuminati, Nexuses, Disney. Disney owns everything.
Yes,
What if Disney is trying to establish a hold on multiple realms so that it can make itself functionally immortal?
that sounds like something they'd do. And sending the the chief creative officer of Pixar into the Carsverse is one way to do it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Which is real spooky. And boy howdy, there's too much to think and not think about with the fact that there are so many people who are multiple people within every universe.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up.
All right.
I will say, I don't know, any of these people who are also cars would be another diecast I want. Because, I don't know, it's tripped me out pretty good.
Fair enough.
But that's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sticking with us last week. We just wanted to take the week off, so we did. And we appreciate you letting us do that. I don't know how you would have stopped us, but you didn't. So we appreciate you not doing that. And if you want to send us ideas for stuff to talk about, you can do so. You can either send us like a prompt for one of our established little series of episodes, like Moments in Herstory, Origin Stories, autobiographies. We have more than that, but who can remember? Or you can just send us a general idea like, hey, Jay Leno is in the Carsverse. What's up with that? And we'll maybe talk about it. You can do that at our Twitter, which is at @thekachat, or send us an email at thekachat@gmail.com. Both of those are all one word. There isn't a hyphen in there. Now, if I were a betting man, I'd say John was gonna say some stuff.
Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and also John Lasseter has two variants, and one of them has brown eyes and one of them has blue.
Oops.
Remember to tell anyone and everyone that you think might be the least bit interested in this podcast. And until next time, remember to float like a Cadillac.
And sting like a beamer.